Set 7 has been out for 4 days now, and the meta is finally starting to settle a little. Today I'll cover my tier list and strategy for climbing on this patch, and then I'll cover how to play all the comps mentioned. The first thing to note is that there was a micro patch on Friday where Nami got a big nerf to her damage, resulting in her being mainly a support unit now. Sy'Fen got nerfed in mage comps, and Varus got a sizable nerf overall. Looking at my tier list, I base this on my own experience, what the top challenger players are playing, and also what the data says about each comp. Overall, this meta is mainly 3-cost 3-star carries and mostly AD comps. In S tier, we have Olaf on top. His spell paired with a warrior trait makes him incredibly strong and allows him to run through tanks. Another great part about the comp is that you're also 3-starring Diana, and she can even be your main carry if you itemize her over Olaf. Varus Reroll follows closely behind. This comp dominated before the micro patch, and it's still incredibly strong after. Due to how the astral trait functions, you're almost guaranteed to hit every game if you're uncontested, which makes this comp very consistent. Tempest Shin is mostly an Xayah level 9 comp you can't always play. Since you are reliant on a legendary 10 cost, you will not always hit, but if you do, this comp wins the game a lot of the time. In A tier, we have Corki. This comp is very powerful and plays well into the melee comps that clump up like Olaf, but it also struggles a little too much against comps that spread out for it to be any higher than A tier. Bruiser Sy'Fen is also very strong, but it gets outscaled unless you're able to hit Pike late game. Without Pike, it's a comp you won't get much higher than top 4 with, but with Pike, you are able to win a lot of games. Jade Reroll is probably the most slept on comp right now. It's definitely not an OP comp, but it's surprisingly strong. It's all about getting a bunch of 3-star 1-cost units to run as your carries and tanks. Assassin Talon rose to power mostly as an answer to Varus and Shin comps, since it counters those comps pretty hard, but it struggles a little too much into Olaf, Sy'Fen, and Corki to be any higher than A tier. In B tier, we have Guild Ryze. This comp would be stronger if Ryze didn't lose his spell when he gets CC'd. A lot of the time when I've played this, he starts casting and gets CC'd, resulting in him losing his cast. QSS isn't really an answer as you need a lot of other items, so this holds it back from being A tier. Ragewing Xayah is a tricky one. If you hit Shyvana 2-star, your frontline is really strong, and it buys enough time for Xayah to wipe boards. But if Shyvana is only 1-star, it generally won't buy enough time for Xayah to deal enough damage. In other words, this is mostly a comp you can only play if you have enough gold to hit Shyvana 2-star. If there is a comp I did not mention here, it's a comp that is in C tier or lower. Now moving on to my strategy for climbing on this patch. If we take a look at the meta, there are 2 main paths you can take: reroll or play fast A to use 4-cost carries or dragon carries. I personally really enjoy playing Bruiser, Sy'Fen, and Olaf, therefore I always default towards those 2 comps. Since they use similar opener and almost identical items, it's very easy to quickly pivot between the 2. On the carousel, this means I like to start Bow. This is mostly to try and get an early Rageblade. This item is great in the early game, and both Sy'Fen and Olaf want it. Additionally, by slamming Rageblade, my options are still open for Varus Reroll, or even Corki if I find more Cannoneers in the early game. The early game board I default towards is Bruiser Cannoneers with Senna carry. Senna is a great user of Rageblade, and with a Bruiser frontline, it's very easy to swap into Sy'Fen or Olaf once you hit them. Overall, the meta is not too balanced right now, but nothing is crazy broken, so you don't want to hard force any comp. When I say that I'm defaulting towards Sy'Fen and Olaf, it means I'm planning on playing those comps from the start until the game gives me something different. Now let's talk about all the comps mentioned. I will make in-depth guides on all of these at some point, so if you want to learn more about any of these, make sure to subscribe to the channel. First up is Olaf. With this comp, you want to slow roll at level 7 with this comp minus Sy'Fen, and you want to play Qiyana over Pike until you hit him. Your top priority is 3-star Olaf and Diana. Braum and Shen are nice bonuses that you can also 3-star. As for items, Olaf needs QSS and BT, and his third item wants to be Rageblade unless you have 1 or 2 Zeke's Heralds. Diana needs IE, then you make another damage item that is preferably Titans, then finish off with a healing item on her. Throw your tank items on Braum or Shen depending on who you 3-star, and the best augments are +1 scale score on a warrior. In that case, drop Sy'Fen to get 6 scale score or 4 warriors. Big Friend is great as most units will be above 2000 HP with 4 Bruisers and 3-stars. Triforce is also great to buff up all the 3 costs you are running. Next up is Varus. This comp has a similar game plan of slow rolling at level 7 for 3-star Varus and 3-star Illaoi. Once you hit both of them 3-star, you can drop Skarner for Sy'Fen as he's a bit better. Don't be afraid to roll down earlier than usual as you will hit very fast when the Astral Synergy is active. Items for Varus are Rageblade, Deathblade, and Hurricane. He is very item dependent, and not having those 3 items really hurts, but replacing Hurricane with Giant Slayer can also work. Illaoi wants standard tank items like Stoneplate, Redemption, Warmogs, Dragon's Claw, or Bramble. The best augments are anything to buff up Swift Shots, healing augments, or the Cosmic Gifts augment is also really nice to get more gold with every orb. Next up is Tempest Ao Shin. This is mostly a high roll comp that you can only play if you're win streaking throughout most of the game, or if you got a bunch of econ augments that accelerated your gold count greatly. Since you want to ideally fast 9 with this, it's something you can only play in a couple of your games. But if you get there, you've basically just won the game. Items for Ao Shin is 1 mana item, which is Sojin or Rageblade, a healing item, which is BT, Gunblade, or Hodge, and a damage item, which can be Archangels, Deathcap, or JG. As for augments, you want economy augments. Besides that, you want anything that gives more tankiness. Next up is Corki. Usually you will run Kench and Ornn frontline here, but I find that Ida's solo frontline works better, although it seems a little unintuitive at first glance. The extra damage you get from Poor Revel doesn't really make it that much better to run Kench, as he's not tanky at all late game. Items on Corki are 1 healing item and 2 damage items. Hodge is the best, as we usually don't need that much healing on him. Last Whisper and Giant Slayer are the best damage items, but Deathblade, Rageblade, and IE also work. Throw any tank items on Idas, and the best augments are anything to do with Cannoneers or Rebels, and +1 Guardian is great to get that shield on Idas. Next one up is Bruiser Sy'Fen. I don't want to touch too much on this one since I'm releasing a guide on how to play this in depth tomorrow. But with this, you want to fast ape for this board and go Rageblade, QSS, and BT on Sy'Fen, and then throw your tank items on Ornn and throw your extra carry items on Pyke. Next up is Jade Reroll. You want to slow roll at level 5 for 3-star Ezreal, Leona, Taric, and Karma. Ezreal is your main carry. One thing to note about him is that his spell scales with AP in set 7 as opposed to AD in set 6. Items for him are blue buff and 2 AP damage items. This can be IJG, Archangels, Deathcap, or Giant Slayer. You can also draw blue buff for Gunblade if needed. Tank items go on Leona as she is stronger than Taric. Once you 3-star Ezreal and Leona, you want to go to level 8 to add in Lee Sin and Xiao Yu. The best augments are Featherweights, any healing augments so you don't need Gunblade, or anything to buff up Jades or Guardians. Next up is Guild Talon. With this comp, you want to ideally fast 8 and end up with this board. Talon is the main carry, so pay attention to positioning so you can make him land on the enemy carries. Play Kayn until you hit Pyke, and play Ryze or Lilia until you hit Bard. As for items, Talon wants IE and Last Whisper to make sure he doesn't get stuck on tanks, and to make sure his spell always crits. And the last one is a healing item, so he can actually heal back up when he stealths himself. The best augments are anything to do with Guild, Assassin, or Cavalier. If not, then anything that gives you attack speed or more healing also works. Next up is Ryze. This comp is similar to Olaf reroll in terms of playstyle, as you want to slow roll at level 7 for Sylas and Ryze 3-star, although Ryze is definitely more important than Sylas. Items for Ryze are 2 mana items, so you can go double Sojin, double Rageblade, or 1 of each. This is to make sure he gets enough mana to cast towards the end of the fight. The third item can be either a healing or damage item. As for augments, anything to do with guild or mages is great, Jeweled Lotus is insane in AP comps, and healing augments are also fantastic as Ryze will heal to full a lot of the time with later casts. Next up is Ragewing Xayah. The reason why this comp is in B tier is because the frontline is not strong unless you have Shyvana 2-star, and that is pretty hard to hit consistently. So if you are ahead in terms of gold and HP, then this comp is considered an A tier comp. Items for Xayah are triple damage items as we get both healing and attack speed through our traits. Shyvana wants tank items, but you can also throw your tank items on Hecarim if you 2-starred him before Shyvana. The best augments are anything to give you more attack speed or to buff up Rage Wings or Cavaliers. Other augments that give you more frontline are also fantastic. All of these comps will be linked in an Imgur album that is available on my Discord server in the hashtag TFT Resources to Improve channel. An invite link to that server is also down in the description. Thank you so much for watching. If you learned something, please leave a like and subscribe to the channel. Comment down below what video you want me to make next, and if you want to get better at TFT, join the Discord. We got over 7,000 other players there who are hungry to climb. And if you want to get coached by me, the information is over on the Discord server as well. So take care and see you in the next video.